Hi, Ivan and Camilla. Two things I just wanted to point out as I swung by the site. I noticed the sump pump ejection. I see you guys have relocated down through the landscaping, and it pokes out through the side of this little retaining wall at grade on this lower slab here. The only concern with that is that if you leave it like that in the winter time when snow and ice builds up over top of it, as any moisture in the ground level below 4 feet, where it's below the frost line, any moisture that tries to eject out of there will spit out and start getting blocked up here because it won't be able to eject properly out fully out onto grade. So you don't want to have the pipe sitting horizontally at grade where it can't drain. You need to make sure it has, number one, positive slope the whole way, because you also don't want to make sure, especially how shallow this is, that they have absolutely made sure that there's continuous slope on the pipe all the way out to here, because if there's any water midway, the pipe midway will freeze because it's so shallow. It'll freeze in the winter, freeze up, and then any water from the sump pit that tries to eject will get blocked up, and then eventually it'll back up into your pit and you won't have any proper ejection. So that's one critical thing that you want to make sure that they've installed this pipe with a positive slope, meaning it drains away from the house the whole way with a minimum of a 1/4 inch per foot of slope. The other thing is, again, here, I'd recommend that they bring this pipe out a little bit further and discharge it somewhere where it has a chance to drop off so that it's up above grade, high enough that snow can build up in the wintertime and not actually come up and build up above the top of the pipe and bury it and cover it and freeze. Because again, the water coming out of here will be room temperature from inside the house, and as soon as it gets out here, it'll get cold and refreeze. So you want to make sure the water has a chance to actually pour out and drain off somewhere rather than get built up here. So I'm a little bit concerned when I see this pipe going down into the ground and then coming across here. I would just be very weary of how they've done it, to make sure that when they tamp this all down, that they've ensured that the pipe had more than sufficient slope. And again, from here, I would definitely take it further out to the back so it has a chance to actually drain off somewhere where that snow is not going to build up. So that would be one critical point that I wanted to bring to your attention, as if we don't do that and there isn't sufficient slope, and let's say the pipe dips, let's say right here, as soon as water starts pooling in here, it's going to freeze, and then more water is going to pour through, and it's going to freeze and freeze until it builds up, and then you're going to have water building up the pipe, and then the vertical pipe here will be full of water, and that would freeze, and then that could actually burst or crack the seams, and then it'll back up all the way into the house, and then you're not going to have any ejection. And in the springtime, when everything thaws, your pipe will be frozen, but the water will be thawing underneath the ground, and then you're going to run into issues with flooding in the basement. So I really can't put it strongly enough that you want to make sure your landscapers have given sufficient downward slope and consistent downward slope to that corner, and make sure that thing has a drain on it. The second thing that I wanted to point out, because there was a bit of a concern when I just showed up here, the street shutoff for your water service was over here somewhere. I had it marked with a green stake, a metal stake. That was where your the little plate on top of the water shaft that turned on your city street water. I noticed when I came here today that on the driveway, which looks like it's being redone, there's now a pipe over here on the driveway, which looks like it's been there for a while, although this actually says gas. So I think this is your gas shutoff, not your water shutoff. So this obviously has to remain accessible so that they can, so the city can come in an emergency and turn off your gas. However, my concern is that your landscapers have driven back over this area again and again and again, and removed the green stake I had and misplaced where the street water shutoff is, which you need to have continuous access to. So I would suggest strongly that you have them dig through here until they find that cap, and make sure that they keep it accessible. Dig around it, dig down to it, and make sure that that's accessible, because you want to always know where that is. Because if anything fails inside the house, If the meter needs to be changed and the valve below the meter fails, you're going to need to turn the water off at the street, and they can't do that with it. They can't find the street shut off. So I would just, again, be cautious and advise your landscapers to let them know that the shutoff was here, marked with a green stake sticking out of the ground, and it seems to have disappeared. I know it is somewhat centrally located across the wall here because the water meter inside is about here, so it's probably somewhere in this vicinity, probably about 4 or 5 feet out in front of the tree, but it's definitely here somewhere because it was marked with a green metal stake, and it seems to be gone now. So I would definitely make sure that they expose it and find it and keep it well marked so that you don't lose access to that. Thanks.